Trishala SURESH, hi and welcome on BlockX. Trish, you are lead impact at SmartChain, a startup that we will talk about today. Could you please first introduce yourself, your education, and how did you end up in the blockchain industry, please?
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you for inviting me on BlockX, and really happy to be here to share a little bit about my story and what I'm trying to build at SmartChain with you today. My name is Trishala. So I, in terms of education, have come from a social sciences background. I was a law major and then venturing into public management and studying in between risks like global risks as well as global health. So it had nothing to do with Web3, but I've always been a tech hobbyist. I studied computer science in high school, so I always kept that part of mine as something to play around with. I'm really into developing games on no-code solutions, so like with Flow Lab. Also did a lot of data science. And, the idea for me was I was never able to bridge those two worlds together. They existed in their own silos. And so it was kind of like last year during the summer when SmartChain approached and was like, we don't know how these two aspects, like, your impact field and tech work together, but why don't you come figure it out? We'll help you do that. And apart from that, professionally, my background was in financial inclusion, and I previously also worked in that sector with the World Food Program and also with another private company as well. So that's kind of my experience so far.
Great. Before talking about your lead impact role at SmartChain, first, could you please introduce like what SmartChain is doing today? Because as far as I understood, it's one of the oldest consulting startup full blockchain in France. Could you please tell us more about it?
Yeah, I would like to say, like, SmartChain is very uniquely positioned in the market, especially in terms of Web3 consultancies today, is because we're not really, I can say that SmartChain is a Web3 consultancy. So we also build products, but give advisory services, but also co-curate with our clients, and that's a huge spirit of the Web3 community itself, right? It's kind of developing together. So what SmartChain is that we do have like an advisory team that consults with the client, but we also have a technical team, whereas we're not really protocol specific. But what's beautiful is that we're trying to explore different protocols as well. So there's a team that's, for Tezos, but Haskell, we have a team that's now working on other protocols as well. So we've kind of tried to recognize the potential there is for the technology, but in a way that, we can better serve the clients that we want to as well. So, but it's been a huge learning curve, I would say, for SmartChain as well, because I joined when the company was 8 people. And that was in June of 2021. And today we're a company of 50 people. So like it's grown a lot, within the past year. And so that's what's beautiful, because it's a vote of confidence, really, that there is a market and people are very curious to explore what you can do with this technology. And we're kind of positioned to serve for that.
Yeah. And what is great is you guys are like today 50 people. For the story, I went to SmartChain offices in Paris, and I already met Trishala and all the teams there. And by the way, they have amazing offices. So what I saw is like you guys, by being 50 people, you have all the resources, all the brain to be able to develop and make a project happen from A to Z for our clients, because you have all internalized all the expertise, which is pretty great today. And it's not the case when you are only like 3, 4, 10 people in a startup.
Yeah. And what's beautiful is like none of this, the intention at SmartChain at the core ethos was also to develop this as a full lab, that we can do something A to Z for you, but nothing is outsourced as well. So when you look at it from a talent perspective, right, everybody who's in this ecosystem is also co-learning a lot, in the sense, you're interacting with the product team a lot more, tech team, the advisory and the discovery team as well. So it's kind of created a very, I would say, it's kind of like a relay on a project, so it's nice because within a huge ecosystem, it's also just having a team that can cater to all your needs. So nothing is outsourced in Smart Chain. So we can say we do this all in-house.
Yeah,
So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's pretty great. So we will take a deep dive on the role you have at Smart Chain as a lead impact. Could you please first like put in context what the lead impact does in general?
Yeah. So I think I've worn different hats with the, the past 12, 15 months that I've been here. It wasn't first was, when you start out as an impact lead, and especially in a startup that's young, you really do practically a lot of different tasks. So it's not like it's impact oriented, but it's impact oriented at an organizational level. So you put your hand into marketing, branding, learn a little bit about product and tech. So at the very beginning, I really started working on Kata Shift. So that was my first adventure, I would say, and which is basically, it's kind of like Kickstarter plus Y Combinator put together for, the Web3 impact projects. So that was a cool way for me to explore the potential of blockchain for impact investing. So as the Smart Chain lead, I spent the first 7 months, really being on that project. And after that, it was kind of moving further away from it and then trying to explore, can we convey the story that there's so many projects building on like, different protocols, but also leveraging blockchain for improving efficiencies for generating impact. So that's when I really started this entrepreneurial project within Smart Chain called Debug Lab. And we're trying to be an interdisciplinary research lab that takes all the expertise I mentioned to you at Smart Chain, product, technology, protocols, but also approach this from a developmental aspect. So because of my background and also the colleague I work with, who is also from a humanitarian background, right? So we just try to look at this from a different angle. So really it's applying this from a lens of solving from bottom up, I would say. So that's kind of my day-to-day job. And I also help out with projects here at Smart Chain right now. So it's a cool way for me to also learn more. And that's the opportunity that's been given to me here.
Yeah, it's a great balance. As you told me before, it's like roughly 50-50 between like Smart Chain project management expertise and what you are doing with Debug Lab. So can you tell us what you guys want to do with Debug Lab?
Yeah, and I think Debug Lab, it's more, I would say that there's 3 steps here. So one, right now we're just doing research and development. In the sense is we're really trying to identify projects that are there building on different protocols and using the technology to generate impact. So in this sense, we're trying to create a market intelligence platform just for impact projects on Web3, basically. What that would enable us to do is that we really want to take this platform and make it a digital public good so that it can be the UN, it can be developmental agencies, governments, NGOs, civil society organizations that can really access this and see how the technology can improve efficiencies. And this can be in a humanitarian context, it can be on supply chain, it can be on identity generation, a lot of ways in topics, and trying to really explore where you can apply this. So that I would say is our short-term goal. And in the long-term goal, obviously it is for Smart Chain to as well as Debug to advise institutions like these and to be able to co-create something for them. So that I would say is our longer-term goal. But first we need to do our research, and that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, you have to. Maybe to clarify a bit when you are talking about impact, because well, all actions have impact, but it's going to be on different level. It can be like on the financial level. What you guys are talking about is like social impact, real impact on the daily lives where there is like crucial needs, for example, all over the world. And it doesn't have to be in France, but can be in Africa, Asia, America. I remember that with Karaship, for example, you were working a lot with projects in Africa. What kind of like area are you targeting first For example, is it like the access to water? Is it like healthy foods, or it is like we take whatever comes and like we do the research and the database accordingly?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, right? So we're currently in the process of developing like what is the case study methodology, but there's the way that you ask it, we really want to classify these case studies on the basis of an internationally recognized framework, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. So the idea is then by each case studies kind of tag them with which goal they address. Is it zero hunger, zero poverty, financial inclusion, access to work and livelihoods, right? So we really want to do this in a way that's also understandable. So one of the, I think our core missions here at Debug is also bridging that knowledge gap between Web 2, Web 3, but also bridging these actors together. So I truly believe right now in Web 3, sometimes the talk is too geekish. It's like only a few people understand it, you know? And the point is, if you want to drive adoption, you also need to meet halfway. So we're really trying to address that gap and to explore, okay, what's the spark of potential here to have a conversation, to co-create, to experiment. So yeah, I think the first level is building the same language that you talk, and that enhances trust between two parties. So yeah.
But I'm pretty happy to receive you today, because I think like blockchain is not only crypto money or to change the financial or the insurance sector. It has all the potential to be implemented on like a smaller organization, on local areas in any country. Obviously, the technology can be complex to understand, but as you say, if you meet halfway, you guys can do like important stuff with people on the ground. Yeah. And I know that's a lot of work, of course. Are you making partnerships, whether it is with Web3 projects or even Web2, like nonprofit organization? How do you guys are working all together?
Yeah, I think first what we're trying to do is before the partnership, we're trying to co-curate our case studies. So work directly with the projects that we're trying to develop these case studies on. So more than a partnership, it's trying to really understand what their opportunities are, what challenges they face, and really just understand what we're stepping into is what I would say. But, you know, coming back to the point of simplifying the tech itself, while it's complex to understand, but very simply, if you can improve transparency of the way an NGO funding works with a smart contract, or it's just traceability and certification, that's already making yourself as a credible, viable institution that would allow for possibly more funding to come in, allow for more investors to really track, you know, hey, this is the cause I support, this is the organization that does it, and here's kind of a proof of impact. But those use cases need to see the light of day, but in a way that's already done and tested. Because once you can show that proof of concept, you can see that, okay, this is scalable. We can actually apply this on a much larger scale. So I think with Debug, that's kind of the point right now is, once we have this, we really do want to have partnerships. And we're trying to develop these partnerships more for the research aspect, because a lot of blockchain is Reddit, Quora, blogs. And so having a little bit of scientific as well as academic backing is something we're really looking as a first step, you know? So yeah, really solidifying the research.
Okay. Do you think that working in the impact and social area, the fact that it doesn't have to aim to produce money, is a barrier for like financial help from the outside?
Actually, not so much, because I truly believe, you know, just with the technology and having the, you know, the token economics aspect of it, is one of the core research topics we have here is how do you value as well as monetize impact? Just because something is creating social impact does not mean it has zero value. It does. And, you know, with giving rewards, for example, say, in a very simple manner, you know, if you fundraise in a particular project, but it's easy to see like, okay, if the project reaches XYZ KPI, hey guys, for X KPI met, here's a reward distribution. You're really incentivizing citizen participation by having those incentives, right? So I think that's the beauty of this technology, is that you can gamify it. And I truly believe, why not just look at the world like a sim city, right? In the sense that you're all in this ecosystem, but you're all co-building. If you want a lamppost on your street, I mean, have a DAO for public services. So really grassroots governance is, I think, the beauty of what this technology can do in terms of rewarding impact. I wouldn't say monetizing it, but in terms of rewarding impact generated.
No, it's totally true. I received Geoffrey Chamallow from Give Us that created a startup to help donation on the blockchain to be able to be transparent, decentralized, of course, immutable, and secured, because all the donation system can have like some pretty huge problem where small entities are taking big amount of money from the donation and not the money almost never goes exactly where it needs to goes or where it is really needed. So could you like explain us like few use cases where blockchain could have a real impact, maybe 2 or 3 projects that could be really useful?
Yeah, I think one of the projects I really like is the experiment done by the UN World Food Program, which is kind of leveraging, digital identities, but also just having these decentralized identities to improve efficiencies in the distribution of cash-based transfers. So when you have people coming to receive, cash assistance, or also like ration, they have an identity that's really easily verifiable. And that is a beautiful use case that's being, kind of put to use on field. And that's improving in efficiency, right? And reducing instances of fraud, maybe, or identity fraud. The second use case I really like is World Mobile. So they're based out of they have a team that operates entirely in Africa. So they have their headquarters in the UK, but also a dev team in Barcelona. But the project is on field across countries in Africa, where their intention is to connect the unconnected. So technically, for having an internet distribution, you basically are rewarded for enabling access to internet. So that I also see as a case study of being like, hey, if I own a particular node, or I invested in this, and that's giving internet access. And beauty is, I had the opportunity to interview him on a panel the Saturday at the Cardano Summit. And he was like, my end users don't even know they're using blockchain. They don't even know they're using digital identity. But that's what it is, right? Like, once you don't know you're using something, it's like, does it really matter if it's built on Web3 or Web2? It's getting them to be connected. So that's this one of the second case studies I really like. And the third one, in terms of generating like transparency, right? There are a lot of them, I would say, but also like just accelerators that do exist on Web3. So I really do give credit, like having like Carter Shift as well, right? Where it's really community driven. You have this project whereby, people apply to be part of it. They're pre-screened, they're voted upon. And so you're really supporting this project from start to finish. And they don't necessarily have to be a Web3 impact project. They could be Web2. So I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is really seeing in how many areas and contexts can you apply this. And yeah, but those are my like just 3 that I thought came right on top of my head.
Yeah, sure. Well, what I see is like, for example, when I have an interview people that are working in the banking systems, it's difficult for them to onboard like a Web2 banking system protocols on the Web3 when these people are, let's say, comfortable with the tech. How can you onboard people that are working on like social services or working really on the ground that are already like far sometimes from the Web2, like to bring them to solution on the Web3 with the blockchains? how can you onboard these kind of people?
Yeah, actually, banking is an interesting one, but in first is, the adoption for Web 2 as well. It took us a little bit of time to kind of get there, but the reason that Web 2 was so easy to understand is because the user experience is great. Whereas in Web 3, it's kind of like a big geek club where it's the user experience still is kind of hard to understand. And I think there's a lot of hype, So one is the technology aspect, the two is the commercial aspect of it. And I think it all gets confused with especially what's happening in the current scenario. So that's level one of the problem. Level two, I would say, is an example I can give you is when you look at the wallets, right? It's really hard to kind of open your wallet if you did it right now in the way it exists. It's easy to open. That's my perspective. But if you talk to somebody and you have to safeguard this, 12 phrase keyword, that's too much, right?
Yeah.
But there's a project, if you know about CELO, the other protocol as well, they developed a mobile first solution. So it's called the Valora wallet as well. What it does is that your mobile phone number with an OTP is used to open a wallet. So you can do peer-to-peer transactions, basically. So yes, I think we'll get there as long as you simplify it and you build it from a user experience point of view. So making it really easy to understand and adopt. And I think the more you reduce the points of friction, so then you kind of be like, okay, this is cool to use, or this is easy to do. But yeah.
Okay, no, but we will get there. Obviously, it's just the question of when, how fast the adoption will go. And when we see that in some countries, or maybe less developed countries, all the tech industries was developed like much slower than a Western country or the US, it's important to them as well not again to be at the back of the train and be the latest, like using these technologies. Well, today almost everybody on Earth, most of the people on Earth have access to internet, so to information that they can find online. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully it will go pretty fast.
Yeah. Sorry, but that point is not from Western countries, but highest digital adoption is in developing countries today. It's not necessarily here. Africa and Asia, and you look at all of the emerging markets as well, digital adoption is the highest rate. Mobile money transactions, right? They're already one step ahead, actually, if you think about it. So it's just a matter of having interfaces that are much easier to interact with and simplifying that level. So I would just say, yeah.
No, actually, it's true. I remember when I was in Kenya, people were paying their electricity bills with a phone. It was in 2017.
With the M-Pesa, yeah.
I was like, we don't even do it in France. Like, okay. I would like to know, are there any financial helps or any helps from the leaders of the lead impact organizations such as the UN or other big non-profit organization in the world that gets sensibilized by these new blockchain technologies and that could be helpful for them, like to implement them? Are they aware of all of it, or they are like pretty far from it?
No, they're actually pretty aware. And to tell you most, the UNICEF has a crypto innovation fund. So technically, they have a venture fund whereby they fund projects in their operating countries, either using crypto or fiat. Right now, they receive them as donations, which is primarily in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So they receive these donations and they help in disbursement of the donations. And companies that they choose to fund can accept their either in crypto or fiat. So they're very aware. The WFP, especially the innovation accelerator that they have, as well as they've already tried and experimented. So you really see them adopting this, but also supporting at least companies that are trying to build, because it's a universal thing, right? And so yeah, everybody's on the trend right now. So that's really nice to see in that case.
That's actually great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, they have their own fund. So there you go.
Well, we are arriving at the end of interview. I would like to finish like what are going to be the main challenges on the impact perspectives for the next 2 to 5 years? Is it going to be
Okay.
adoption? Is it?
Yeah, I think if you look at it from a Web3, like impact in Web3, I think is first like increasing the trust of the ecosystem itself, especially what's recently happened over the past months as well, not just the bearish market, but when you look at the due diligence that needs to be done, we're still lacking that. You also need consumer protection that needs to exist, right, for somebody to trust. And I think that we're really lacking, but that's also from a regulation point of view, like, so we're getting there, but it's also like extremely early. So first, trust building. Two, I would say, this, especially for creating impact, that's like next step. But in terms of user experience, really the adoption will also depend on how well we communicate what the technology can do, but how accessible we also make it. And so a large part of that will go into education, I think, and really saying these are the efficiencies, right? The third thing is always comes down to, which is a challenge even in the traditional kind of sense. So, and our traditional web right now, which is Web 2.0, but the next iteration that we're trying to go into is, we still struggle with evaluating impact. So one real field of discovery and exploration is, does Web3 make this better to track? Is there a way that, impact is not seen as like a special word you use, but whatever you do is able to generate something for the good of society? So that's like, that's like a very optimistic version of the world, but I'm willing to hold on to it.
Yeah, hopefully it will. Well, Trish, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing what you do as a lead impact, and I wish you all the good luck for the future.
Thank you, Pierre, for having me, and good luck to you as well. I know you've moved immensely in the past 2 months with BlockX, and I see the traction. So kudos to you, and keep up interviewing people in this workspace and teaching us more. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Trish.